My name is Roy Swattis. In my last video, I manufactured a cable for 2004 SC430. You can't buy those cables anymore. You have to buy an actuator for them. So I took a cable made for another vehicle and modified it so it would fit into the SC430. The other thing I was going to do, and this is part 2 of this series, is to fabricate a cable entirely from a bicycle cable using the dimensions from the original cable from the car. This is from my SC430 from the passenger seat, and this is the cable that opens the door. It's not the cable that locks the door. That's very important to note because the ends on those two are different, and so I'm manufacturing the door latch cable. On this end of the door latch cable is normally a little ball thing that I've lost, but I know the dimensions are 27 inches. So the cable itself has to be 27 inches, and then the cable sheath is about 23 inches. What I've done is I've gone and bought a bicycle cable from Amazon. You can see on this end there's kind of a ball-shaped thing, and on this end there's like a little barrel thing end on it. That barrel end I'm going to leave the way it is because I can buy, well, I have bought these cables on Amazon.com. They're Terminator cables for bicycle cables. They got little barrel ends on there that you can tighten up with a screw, and I'm going to attempt to replace that soldered in barrel end with one of these. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have to take this off, these plastic end pieces, and somehow or other get them to fit on the bicycle cable. That's going to be the hardest part of this whole thing. And that's important because originally what I did was I bought a bicycle cable and I was just going to run a bicycle cable through the sheath, but as you can see when you try and get that in, it's not wide enough at the end, and I think what it's hitting is hitting this really skinny cable here. I think once I replace those cables with the bicycle cable, then this should slide in nicely, but I'm going to have to figure out some way to make the bicycle cable sheath run over on top of this plastic piece. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and I'll cut back in once I've gotten to that part of the video, that part of the manufacturing process, to show you what I've done. I kind of cut as I make progress, or as I come across a stumbling block or a problem, I'll cut in and tell you what that problem is. Anyway, see you in a little bit. Okay, so straight away I thought I'd be able just to cut this little piece off right here, right off the cable. But just like I found out in the last video I did when I modified the cable for another vehicle and the doorman cable, underneath that rubber is metal wires. So I'm going to have to probably pull out each of those wires first before I can pop those the end off, and I'm going to give that a try. And it should be pretty easy. The last time I did this on the doorman cable, I tried doing different things with those wires, but I did find out that you can pull them out rather easily. The first one's a little tough, but once you pull the first one out, the others kind of fall into place. It should pop out real easy, and I'm hoping once I pop those wires out that the white plastic top here should just pop right off. And I'm going to give that a try, and when I get that done, I'll get back with you. Okay, yeah, as you can see, I've gotten one of the wires out already, and it did just pull right out. And the way you do that, I just took a little probing tool or screwdriver or something. You can just grab those, you see, and pull them right out like that. So even though you run into these wires, for the most part, they're not a big problem. Getting rid of them is pretty easy. And like I say, I think once I get rid of all of these wires here, should be able to just pop this end off right here. But anyway, I just wanted to show you how you pull those wires out. I'll grab a couple more here and show you again. Get something underneath them and just pull them out like that, and there you go. See? That popped right off, and what I'll probably have to do is drill that black cable sheathing, outside sheathing, out of there, so make that hole big enough, and then I should be able to ride the bicycle cable over the top. I'll have to split it, and then I'll use this thing called 5-second fix to kind of seal it up. Anyway, just wanted to get back with you on that, and I'll cut back in when there's some exciting news. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I drilled this thing out. I'm using a pair of vice grips here. It's a Sears Robo grips, they call them. They're pretty handy, but any kind of vice grip should work. You don't want to hold this thing with your hand. You don't want to use real high powered drill either. I'm using a cordless electric drill with those kind of funny little screw heads or drill heads on them, and it's not the best, but you can use the Robo grips to kind of hold it. If something goes wrong, it's not going to go jamming into your hand, but you see, it does do the job very good, very effectively. One of the other things I figured out too is that the cable itself is probably not going to be wide enough to slip over the end. You see, it's really much smaller than the connector end. So I'm going to try and drill that hole out large enough that I can slip that in there, just like the other one was, only the hole being big enough to hold now the to fit in the cable in. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll get back to you in a little bit. I just wanted to demonstrate how I drill out that, and kind of give you a little advice on a little safety talk on that too. So anyway, back to you in a little bit. Okay, so I've gotten that completely out, as you can see. I'm going to have to drill it out a little bit more in order to get the cable sheathing to fit in there, the bicycle cable sheathing. And I did notice that I'm going to have to do a little bit more drilling on this end here because the bicycle cable still won't go into there. So I know that that plastic in there ought to fit it at least. There's a little constriction point in there, so I'm going to use this drill bit here, which seems to fit in pretty nicely. And don't ask me about sizes, because I never could figure out these darn sizes for drill bits. But anyway, just easiest way is just see if a drill bit fits in there and go for it. Anyway, I'm going to give this a try and be back in a little bit. Okay, back, and just wanted to show you that I did drill that through, and now that cable is coming through there very nicely. And I should be able to go ahead and find a way to get this hole to me a little bit bigger so I can fit that cable sheathing, the bicycle cable sheathing in there. And if that works, then I just got to glue it together and do the same thing to the other end. Back in a little bit. Okay, I'm back with a bit of good news. I was able to drill out the end of that, and it's pretty wide. When I tried to stick in the cable and to see if it would fit, it wouldn't. This has another end on it. Sorry, but this end over here, it wouldn't fit. But I did notice that there's like a metal sheathing on this bicycle cable as well. So I cut back on the rubber, and look, and lo and behold, it fits in real nice. So if I cut this cable back far enough, it should slide in there real nice. Use the 5-second fix to glue it in, and that should be it. It should be as easy as that. And that was I think the first bit of good news I've had in either of these two projects. So that's good news. Okay, I'm back. So as you can see, that connector end fits pretty good in there. Should have made it a little snugger, but that's okay. That's not going to be a problem. What I'm going to do is use this 5-second fix now and see if I can't get this thing to stick real good, and then we'll be done with this end. Anyway, I'm going to do this real time so you can see how this 5-second fix works. I haven't used this since about a week or so ago, and the way it works is this stuff here. There might be a little clot on the end there. Let's put a little bit of this. Now this stuff is not glue. It's a bonding material, and it uses the light to bond a UV light, and the UV light's on the other end of this thing. I'm going to put some downward through the shaft here. I don't know if the UV light will get through that opaque plastic, but I'm hoping it will. If it does, then this thing will be on here forever. Anyway, so once you got that glue on there, then you take this little UV light thing here, and you just press it on there like that, press down on the light, and you leave it there for a couple of minutes. I'll try and give you a better shot of that there, and that's all you got to do. You don't have to have that light on there too long. It's called 5-second fix because I guess you're only supposed to leave it on there for 5 seconds, but I usually leave it on there a little bit longer. And I repaired a plastic part on my door. The plastic part that has the all the window up and down buttons on it, and one of the ends that slipped on the back side that slipped underneath like a little clamp type of thing, that had messed up. Just plastic was old and it broke, and I used this 5-second fix on that, and I'm telling you, it was there to stay. Didn't break, wasn't weak, stuck on there like it was there, like it was made that way. So I have a lot of confidence in this stuff. I really like it. So let's see how that is. There it is. It's there. It's on there for life now. So anyway, got one end done. Got to do the other end. I did have a little problem that I discovered, and I'm going to cut away here for a little bit and bring that back and show you what that is. Okay, so I'm back now. Here's the problem I found. I was going to use this little barrel connector thing that I bought on the end that I cut, and it's pretty close to the size of the barrel thing on the other cable. That barrel piece is the barrel end of the wire goes into the actuator, and it fits in there very snugly, and so it doesn't tend to move around once it's in there. So I think this is going to work. And I have to be real careful. Once you get the screw in that little hole there, then see this little nut, this little screw comes in here, and you screw that down, and it holds the cable on there very tight. The problem is, I think this screw is a little too long. I'm going to try and find one that's shorter, and I'm sure I can find that at Ace Hardware store. But the bigger problem is this little hole here that the wire goes through. There's no way that wire is going to fit in there, so I've got to drill that out. Not a big thing, but it's just going to take a little more time. And when I get to that point, I will cut back in. Okay, I'm back. So I've gone ahead. This is the other end of the cable. This is the end I just fixed, and then coming back around, this is going to be the other end. On this end, we're going to put the green connector on there, and I don't remember if the green connector was the one that goes by the actuator or not, but go back and look at my previous video and I'll remember from that. But either way, it doesn't matter for right now. But anyway, here's the problem again. This that metal sheet they always put in the cables now. And so what I did was I went ahead and cut out. This is the end here. It's going to slide into that green connector end. But I have to cut it there, and it's not cable wires. It is actual. It's like a cable band, I guess you'd call it, a metal band that's twisted very nicely around it. So I think what I'm going to do is take this little hacksaw here, and I'm going to hacksaw that and get through it. But anyway, I don't want to bore you with the details. I'm going to go ahead and start on that and see if that causes or creates any problems. If it does, then I'll have to find some other way of doing it. But I'll get back to you soon here in a little bit. Well, good news, that actually worked. It actually worked pretty easily. I just hacksawed through it. You gotta be a little careful with the band because it kind of want to unwinds as you're cutting it. But I was able to finally do it. And here's the bicycle cable. There's plastic underneath that band, and as you can see, it fits in perfectly. So all I have to do now is take that green end and glue that on there, and the sheathing part of this exercise will be over. It's fabrication effort, I guess, and then I just need to fix the cable itself in there, and I should have a good functional working cable. Okay, that's it. Okay, so I'm back now, and I've got it all completed on this end. Cut a little bit too much of the sheathing off, I suppose, but I use that 5-second fix, and this little connector end is not going to go anywhere. It's there to stay. So could look a little prettier, but I'm happy overall with how it fit. And now the only thing left to do is probably the hardest part, and that's getting the cable in there. Also wanted to note that I made a mistake earlier. I misstated. I said this cable length was 23 inches. It's actually 25 inches. So just take note of that. But if you have your original cable off your car, you would know that. Hopefully, though, you can use this video to make this cable before you go through all the work of taking the door panel apart and all this stuff. So you'll have a cable ready to go once you're ready to start There's one end, there's the other end. I don't remember again which is the green end and which is the white end, whether the white end goes to the door or the green end goes to the door. But I'm gonna go back, look at my previous video, and when I go to put in the cable, I'll make that clear so that you don't have to open up your own door and take a look. Anyway, that's it for now. Okay, I'm back. So wanted to show you that when I did drill through and widen that hole up on this little barrel unit. This is the hole the way it was before I modified it. This has a tiny little hole there for a really small wire. Screw goes into the cap there. I took the other one just like it, and I drilled that hole out so it would fit into the cable. One little trick I did do was on this end. When you cut these things, it's really hard because it's a braided cable, and when you cut it, it tends to want to unbraid, and you can see it's unbraiding right there. And so I put a little tape on there after I cut it. I probably should have put some tape on there before I cut it. I might have kept everything together. That's just a tip. You might want to try that. But I put some tape on there, and because it was really hard to get it into that hole because of all the braid ends. Well, the tape kind of kept it together, and I lengthened it out a little bit, and I was able to get the tape. I twisted it up and ran through the hole, and then grabbed it with a pair of pliers, and I pulled it through, and surprisingly it worked. But you can see how it's kind of unbraiding there. So I went ahead and put some tape right there so that it would keep it from unbraiding even more. Then what I'm going to do is take this little piece, I'm going to measure it out to 27 inches. Then I'm going to clamp that down temporarily with the screw that it came with. And the screw that it came with is really too big. It's a big old honker like that, you see, and I want to find something that's a little more of a flat head, a bit smaller in length so it doesn't pop out the end. I'll go down to Home Depot or Ace Hardware and I'll find something to replace it. But for right now, I'm just going to use this big ugly screw once I get to the 27-inch mark. Anyway, that's it. Okay, so I'm back. So I made a little mistake there. I had put this little cable on to the cable barrel thing on the end of the cable on probably a little too soon because I hadn't gotten the cable into the cable housing. And I learned an important lesson I wanted to share with you is that when you assemble this cable, it's probably best not to glue everything together until you got this cable wire into the cable, because when you cut the cable ends, it's just really messy. I'll see if I can show you here. It's a braided wire, so all the braids want to go everywhere. So what I had to do is tie a little tape on the end, and I used a lot less than this. I'll show you in a little bit why I have so much on it now, but I just put a little bit on the end, just enough to put all the wild braids and keep them all together. And I had that on there when I cut it too, by the way, and that's a way to keep the braids from this thing under control while you cut it, because I don't have any fancy tools here. I'm doing this the Mexican way, so I use whatever tools I have available, and one of those is for a wire cutter. I used one of these things here, and needle nose pliers with a little wire cutter, and it kind of sort of works. You really have to work at it. I'm sure there's a device that you can pay $30, $40, or $50 for that will make a nice clean cut on the cable wires, but again, this is the Mexican way of doing it, so I'm not going to waste. I don't like spending money on special tools that I only use once and never use again. So a little bit of tape on the end, and I ran it through the cable ends and made sure that the ball end is over here, and then ran it through. But it was a little, fortunately I didn't have too much trouble. Once I got it past the green end, it came through, and at the other end I just had to twist it and twist it and twist it until it finally popped out of this end. But if I had it all disconnected, it would have just been a lot easier. I could have run it through the green connector end, run it through the cable, run it through this clear this white connector end, and then after I had them all out, I could have gone back and glued everything. So that's a tip. If you're doing this yourself at home, don't glue everything together till you got the cable through there. And now that I have the cable through there, what I'm going to do is try and demonstrate how to get it on here, because these are on these little barrel things. This is really not easy to do. I'll see if I can demonstrate it here. I may not be successful because it really takes a lot of work, and I'm going to try and film film it at the same time, and it doesn't always work. You got to have a clean end, so I might be helpful to do that. And then this hole here, you don't want that hole there to be too big, so you want it to be just big enough. And see, the problem is you got to get that through there, and it's first. And once you get it through that end, see what happens is it wants to bunch up in there. So it's you got to make this really, really tight, and it's hard for me to do that on while I'm filming. So I'm gonna break away and put this in there. But anyway, that's how I do it. I twist this and twist this until it's thin enough. It'll go through the hole. Once I have it through the hole, I have something to grab onto and pull and push at the same time, and it pops it through here. I'm going to do this offline, and I'll get back to you once I'm done there. Okay, and so I'm back, and I just wanted to show the completed project. This is the replacement cable. It was a bicycle cable. Now I put these foam things back on, by the way. I didn't mention that earlier in the film. I don't know what these are for. I learned a long time ago if somebody put them on there, there's a reason for it. But I went ahead and glued them back on. I used that 5-second fix to reuse the foam. If you have the foam laying around with the tape on it, you could just use that, I suppose. But I didn't have any, so I just used a little 5-second glue, and that sealed it all up. On this end, you see I have the little barrel-y thing. Now I'm going to leave that cable on there, the rest of that cable, until I get to the point where I need to use this. And I'm going to go ahead and go shopping now for a screw that I can fit on that end right there. Something that's see how far that sits out. I need something that's going to lay pretty close to the surface of that. Probably some kind of flathead screw, so it doesn't punch out so much. I know from replacing the other one that there is the side that points out, you'll be able to put that screw in there and it shouldn't interfere with anything. But I won't know what side that is until I actually go to assemble it. So when I'm ready to put this into the car, then I will go ahead and put the good screw in there, make sure it's facing the right way, and then tighten it down. And then once I do that, I'll pull it out and cut it right there and probably sand it down a little, file it down so it's nice and smooth, and it should work just fine. This end is the ball end. This is the end that fits into the latch assembly on the door, the latch on that little silver, the chrome latch lever. And it's on the original, it's a ball. This is close enough to a ball, and I know from installing the other one this will work. And so anyway, that's it. That is my completed cable assembly. I don't know if it's going to work or not until I actually need to use it. I've replaced one on the passenger side, so when the driver door goes out, I will have a cable ready to go, and I'll save myself about anywhere from $200 to $300 not having to buy an actuator assembly. That's my end of my project. I hope you guys I hope you learn a little bit from it. I always learn something when I go through this through one of these exercises. And if you have any questions, or if you have a better solution, why don't you post it, let me know. And if there's something you'd like me to add to these videos as I make them, just leave me a comment and I'll see if I can comply. Anyway, that's it for now. Enjoy. Bye. Okay, I'm back again. Real quick, exciting news. Remember this little piece here that's going to fit on the end of that cable? I went over to Home Depot and I purchased, remember I had these great big ugly huge screws that fit into the end. There's a little hole where the cable goes through, and then that screw tightens up against the cable. Well, I went to Home Depot and I found these little things. It's found out that screw is a 10-32, and I bought a 1/4-inch socket set screw, and what that has is a little Allen wrench fitting at the end of the screw here. I got one screw put in there already, you see. It's a little Allen wrench fitting in there, and I got the other piece. There's two that come in the bag, and I got the other piece here with the Allen wrench already inserted in there. And so you see, you just go ahead and screw that on. Assuming the cable's on there, you can get this in here and tighten it up. I would recommend you only use one end, because the other end's going to lay flat inside that actuator on a plate. And so the top one can stick out a little bit. It doesn't matter, but you're going to want to have the bottom one pretty flush, and that's going to. And so you may just only want to use one. You don't need to use two. So you're gonna just tighten it all down. I got both of them in there just because I don't want to lose them. I'm not gonna insert these until I actually put the cable into the actuator and fit that piece in there, that barrel piece in there. So anyway, that's pretty much it. That won't be able to show you the full assembly because the cable that I built was just a cable that I'm going to keep so that when my driver's door latch cable finally breaks down, I'll have a replacement for it ready to go. And since I had the cable and everything there, it only cost me it was probably $5 or $6 for the bicycle cable, and then another $2 or $3 for the set of these little barrel-y things. And it could be less if you could find just the individual little barrel-y things at a bicycle shop or something. And then these little set screws, they came in at a couple dollars, $2 or $3 themselves. So, you know, probably for $10, $11, I able to end up with a working cable for my car. So that concludes this taping. And thank you very much. If you have any questions, please email me or leave some comments on my YouTube page, and I'll try and get back to you on that. Anyway, thank you. Bye bye.